It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the 16th edition of the School of Tomorrow events, Guardians of the Future, Shaping Tomorrow with Generative AI. The non-profit SOT event series was launched by Beacon House in 2000 to engage global communities in conversations that shape the future of schools and societies. I would like to thank Google for Education, the lead sponsor for SOT 2023, and their partner Tech Valley. Our titanium sponsor, UBL. Our other key sponsors are My Backpack, MK Books, Allied Bank Limited, Habib Bank Limited, Wateen, and Interwood. We also thank our SOT supporters, including Paramount Books and Nestle Pure Life, who have contributed to this year's event. My name is Sadia Chand, and I'm branch head at Beacon House F74. Please take a moment to note these important points. Please ensure your cell phones are silent. In case of emergency, the exit is at the back, so stay calm and follow directions. Please use the SOT app to scan the QR code for Q&A and feedback. Share your thoughts on social media using the hashtag Guardians of the Future and hashtag SOT 2023. If you need assistance, our ushers are here to help. For questions, please either use the flashcards provided by the ushers or use the mobile app. The panel discussion will last for about 45 minutes, followed by the question-answer session. Now I would like to introduce the moderator of this session, Ms. Ayesha Kasuri, the Deputy Director of Curriculum at Beacon House Group. She has had the most substantial influence on the growth of young minds. With over 25 years of experience, Ms. Ayesha has been a driving force in shaping the minds of the youth in Pakistan and Asia. She has not only crafted a clear vision of these young minds, but has also brought it to life through innovative projects like Leo's Workshop and TNS at Lahore. Ayesha's contribution to modernizing education, particularly through the programs like International Curriculate, have been invaluable. Without further delay, the visionary and brilliant moderator of this session, Ms. Ayesha Kasuri. Please.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you very much. I'm not sure I was deserving of that very long intro, but thank you. Thank you, panelists, for being here. I really appreciate it. I want to start without further ado. So let me introduce everybody here. This is Ms. Samar Minallah, sitting right next to me. Welcome, Samar.
Thank you.
Ms. Samar Minallah Khan is an anthropologist and a documentary filmmaker from Pakistan. In the media, she's been referred to as a savior of soul, women who rock the world, the crusader with the camera, and the woman that changed Pakistan. Those are really big accolades, Ms. Samar. Thank you so much for joining us. Right next to her, we have Ms. Sarah Rajper. Ms. Sarah is a curator, graphic designer, visual artist, based here in your very own Islamabad. She received her bachelor's degree of design in visual arts from NCA. She's also a creative producer and co-curator for Lahore Digital Arts Festival. Welcome, Sarah. We really appreciate you being with us. And also, she's also the recipient of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals Excellence Award. Congratulations, Sarah. And then there's Mr. Rashid Rana. I don't think anybody needs an introduction. He's done some wonderful work upstairs. Whenever you guys have a chance, please do go upstairs and immerse yourself in the art curated by Mr. Rashid. Mr. Rashid is widely considered to be one of the leading artists of his generation in Southeast Asia. He emerged as the maker of an entirely new kind of art from Pakistan at the start of this century. He has exhibited extensively at various galleries and museums globally. He's also the recipient of the prestigious awards including Game Changer, Asia Art Award, and was awarded the Sitara Imtiaz by the President of Pakistan in 2022. He is the founding faculty member and currently the Dean of the School of Visual Arts and Design at BNU Lahore. Welcome, Rashid. Thank you so much for being part of this panel. And of course, last but not least, our virtual guest, Samir, is with us. And let me introduce you guys to Samir, just in case you haven't met him. For the first time in Pakistan, SOT events, we have these AI avatars They will participate in our discussion, and you may ask them any questions at the end of our discussion if you want to. So they are, we've partnered with Soul Machines for this convergence of technology and human-like presence. So let's see if we can get some exciting and dynamic answers from Samir. So let's delve into this. As an educator, I have always maintained that content is very easily and readily available. Content is at the tip of your fingers, what they call now the black mirror, your phone. It has a world full of wealth of knowledge. But it's the skills, right? It's the skills that we need, and one of the major skills that we talk about is creativity. And a lot of the discussion that we have is whether creativity can be taught or whether creativity is something that a person is born with. So let's start with there, and then we'll take the conversation into the metaverse. So Samar, can I start with you?
Sure, Ayesha. Is this working?
Yes, it's good.
Thank you, Ayesha, and I'll take it from there. I completely agree with you that it's the creativity that lies at the core of content development. So I am a documentary filmmaker, and I started making films in regional languages, Pashto, and the entire process was tedious. You need resources, you need people to be on board. But I think with Metaverse, I see this ray of hope that it's going to evolve into a decentralized, democratic, a more inclusive medium for so many talented people to use who haven't had the access to resources in the past. So I am pretty positive when it comes to Metaverse in the area of art and film. And I've started working, at least trying different forms of voiceovers for my documentary filmmaking, and we know that it's improving, it's evolving. They've already introduced voices that are empathetic, so that's how it is going to improve. And then as an anthropologist, I've been using cultural tools, because as an anthropologist, most of my work is focused around content that is culturally relevant. So I've been working with the truck artists, and I introduced this concept of moving billboards, where I worked with the local truck artists and asked them if they could start painting the images of happy, empowered girls with books in their hands, with messages like "Ilm Roshni hai." And these trucks are moving from one part of Pakistan to another. But again, I was trying to target a particular audience. But now this particular form of cultural tool has reached a global audience thanks to Metaverse, because recently it was curated. I helped curate it with Google Arts and Culture and another artist in New York, and it was exhibited at the UN General Assembly recently in New York as one of the best examples from around the world.
Yes, I saw
because
that.
of the innovation. So innovation, creativity, authenticity, that will always remain as a priority. So I think that we have to
Thank you.
remember.
So you're saying that the human mind will continue to be creative, and the
Absolutely.
metaverse will just help with access.
Absolutely.
All right. Sarah, may I ask you the same question? Let me just word it again. Is the metaverse reshaping our traditional understanding and engagement with art, museums, and galleries?
Definitely. I think the power of the metaverse is really transforming the way that we experience art, because now it's more accessible to anyone from any part of the world that can, access that. So I think definitely it's changing how we see the art experience, but I think it's also important to mention, the negative aspects of the metaverse. There are, dozens of positives, as we know: connectivity, social interaction, collaboration. But I think we should also consider the negative effects of, just being online for so long, how it affects your mental health. There are studies right now that show how, being online and being in the metaverse can affect your mental health in the way that, some people experience psychosis. They can't really tell the difference between the metaverse, the physical world, and the virtual world. So because the concept of the metaverse is also very new, these studies are ongoing right now, so the data, is being compiled right now. So mental health was one of them. There are also some cases of, bullying and sexual harassment that we've seen in the metaverse as well. So I think with all the positives that we have in the metaverse and how, it's changing the landscape of art, we also need to see how it affects, our physical self and our mental health as well.
After your introduction and you put together the Digital Art Festival, I'm happy to hear that you're thinking of all the pitfalls as well, because they are important. But I think, especially with students, if we have protocols in place, if we have, this is something that we can curtail. Rashid, can I ask you the same question? Is the metaverse reshaping our traditional understanding and engagement with art museums and galleries? And I want you to talk a little bit about, like where Sarah left it off, that I think about access, the fact that you can be sitting anywhere in the world and go to Google Art and walk through the MoMA or walk through all those galleries. That's something to be said about that, no?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, the exhibition on display upstairs,
yes,
Gallery 6, as you gave me the credit, thank you.
Yeah.
But my colleague Risham Syed is the co-curator.
Yes, she is.
And assisted by Walid Zafar, another colleague of ours. And a lot of contribution from our team, BSS team, and of course the artists.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Before I answer your second question, if I may just respond to the first one you asked about creativity. Because
yes,
lots of teachers are sitting here, I myself as a teacher, and this question often comes up, whether creativity can be inculcated, can be taught amongst the young ones. Young ones should be left alone. I think they are uninhibited, and they possess something intuitive that we don't have as adults. So as adults, when we learn to be creative, we're basically learning strategies as to how our mind can be applied or brought various creative outcomes. So inherently we all are creative. All human beings are creative. It's like all human beings, in a very simple example, can compute, but we cannot compute better than a calculator, which has been designed by human beings. So you design strategies around the functioning of your mind, which is a supercomputer, as to how those abilities can be brought out. That's essentially you do as part of the whole harnessing process of creativity. Regarding your other question to do with reshaping, whether metaverse is reshaping art and museums and their role in the society. First of all, metaverse, I mean, it's a very buzzword these days. It's really in very simple terms, it's Internet 2.0. So Internet becoming more immersive, more inclusive, employing new technologies to be more engaging, and many revolutionary technologies are in the pipeline that we're going to witness hopefully in our lifetime in the near future.
Yeah.
So, but it's not really the art and galleries that are reshaping or shaping metaverse. It's the other way around. In fact, I would go to the extent of saying that metaverse may be challenging the very existence of what we call art.
Yeah.
When we say art with a capital A, often we think that it's something which has existed forever, because we teach students and we teach ourselves cave painting in terms of historical context.
Bilkul.
Cave painting is art, miniature painting is art, Sistine Chapel is art.
Right.
Whereas those creations were not produced with the intention of creating art. Art is a very recent phenomenon, only 150 years old, with a capital A. And the way we practice and experience art, that we go to concerts, we go to cinemas, we go to galleries, and we experience something, some sort of art or object or experience which is meant to be for the sole purpose of creative expression. This didn't happen in the past. Sistine Chapel wasn't created with the intention that people will go and see the exhibit. People did not go to a mandir or shrine to listen to bhajan because they went to a concert. They were there for a devotional purpose.
Right.
Similarly, cave painting wasn't produced with the intent that people go there for the opening of the exhibition. So we call those things creations art because we have a lens of art. For instance, miniature painting was produced with the intention of documenting the emperor's life, and they were part of the manuscript. Now the pages have come out and been framed and put into museums worldwide. So what we do in this time, and especially this transitional time that we're going through in this age of information, we don't know what those practices will be labeled and called in the future. But all these human developments, technologies, they push the ability of what we are capable of as human beings.
You're absolutely right. And audience, this is very important that what people are producing, it could be anything. And we don't know 100 years from now how they'll be saying, oh, this was art. And our intention was not there. I feel like the metaverse, this is my personal opinion, and I obviously am not a digital artist or, from the world of art, but I feel that till I can smell, touch, and hear, I don't know if that for me is art, right? I feel, especially with the teachers who are here and moms and dads, when you have children, a lot of children won't go to see art. But if I just turn on the internet and say, Yele, go to Google Art and look at this painting or something, if they have an assignment, sure, but it's not in their first thought is not, oh, let me go visit an art gallery. However, if I bring my children here and take them upstairs, they're going to thoroughly enjoy the experience because they're feeling, they're touching, it's all tangible. So what about that? With the world currently going where it is, we know the smog situation in Pakistan. For a sustainable future, this moving around in cars and planes, all of these things are going to be restricted a lot more in our future than we'd like to believe. So in that world, will it not then the metaverse play a large role? I can start with you.
Absolutely, Ayesha. And moving ahead from what you just said, that you need to touch, you need to feel to really understand a particular form of art. That actually reinforces this idea that we need not feel threatened by this particular form of technology. I see it just as an additional layer to whatever we are doing. It's just going to facilitate, like when it comes to my form of visual medium, it is going to be just adding an additional layer to whatever I'm, creating in content. And yes, it is definitely going to address many environmental issues. And it was actually during the COVID time that all this technology really came and was shared with the entire world. So again, it has its pros and cons. We have to accept that. But then we also have to move with the time, especially for the younger generation. I think it's very important to not just look at the negative sides or the fears or whatever fears we have, but just start exploring this area. Because, for example, when it comes to conserving culture, I think Midjourney or DALL-E, they are such great examples where you can actually conserve motifs from around the world which are endangered. So we have to accept that it has its pros and cons, and then we have to move forward.
Wasn't it Midjourney or one of these apps that created the entire Mohenjo-daro civilization, and they made art, pictures, and so that we could, because we don't have those in annals of history, we didn't have those pictures, we didn't have those access to that, and they said what would they look like? And so that was something that took the sort of everybody by storm. Are you familiar with that?
Yes. Yeah.
And so what do you think?
So I think when we start talking about AI art, then the conversation kind of goes in a different direction. With AI art, there are lots of platforms that are using stable diffusion models, which is basically that they use a database of artworks and then create AI art, text to image art based on that. So there are lots of positives, like we can see, civilization, renders that we've never seen before. But then we also start questioning, the copyrights of these AI-generated images, because many of these platforms use the stable diffusion model with databases that are copyrighted artworks, actually, of artists, photographers. So I think it starts to you start questioning, okay, is this, can this art even be copyrighted? Can anyone own it? Right now in the US, there was a ruling in a court that basically decreed that AI-generated art cannot be copyrighted. And the reason for that is because it's lacking that human creative expression. So I think when we come to AI-generated art, it really depends on what kind of database you're using. I can give the example of one of the artists that we curated in Lahore Digital Arts Festival right now that happened in October in Lahore. There was a team basically of 2 artists and 2 software engineers who created an AI-generated interactive installation using those 2 artists' database of artworks, like over 400 images of their own artwork. So, it really depends on what the database is and whether or not, people are actually allowed to use that database.
Rashid, you are one of the leading, you took Pakistan through this digital revolution, so to say. Aap bataएं, what is your take on this work, the AI, Mid-Journey, all of these? Will it still be authentic artwork? Or like Sarah was saying, it'll just be a little bit from here and a little bit from that, and let's all mash it together and throw it out there as art?
First of all, what you mentioned earlier about the environmental and ethical issues. No invention, as we know, is good or bad in itself.
Yeah.
So it's what we make of it and how we use it. But essentially, all its invention being extensions of our body are liberating, and they provide us something new, a new freedom. For instance, there's so much democratization of knowledge around these new technologies, and it defies borders. We live in a very strange world. That the old age tribalism, the tribal mindset is still there. So we live in the age of nation states. Right. All these cages that have been divided. In this age and time, it's probably easier for consumer products to be exchanged and move around easily as opposed to human beings. So despite these hard political borders, technologies gives us, this freedom to defy these borders, at least in some virtual space. So that is something I really think we can cherish about the new technologies. About the limitations of AI, I think it's in a very primitive state at this point. A lot has to be done because the database is very, very masoom, if I may say. But I think a lot is in the pipeline for us to look forward to.
What direction would you like it to go, Rashid? How do you envision it in your context? Where do you want it to go?
That's an exploratory journey. I mean, I cannot predict what I'll be doing 5 years from now. I had no clue what I would be producing 20 years back, what I've produced in the last 20 years. I just follow a journey and one thing leads to another. For example, when I started using found imagery back in early 2000s, I just realized it was slightly pre-Google age, where you can search so many images.
Right.
And yet one could sense that it's truly an age of images, which is a very cliche thing to say, but imagine if you bring somebody from 200 years back into this time, they'll just go nuts seeing the consumption of images, the images that we encounter in one single day. So I assumed this role of editor of images very early on. Being trained as a painter, conventional, traditional painter, I soon realized that the photos that I was using as a reference to produce large photorealistic paintings, that process of paint can be eliminated. I can just use the found imagery itself. So I let go these craze and obsession with absolute originality. I thought, it's your ideas and what you do with the available content and material can be a new kind of looking at originality. So I assumed the role of somebody who can bring different images, existing images together in associations, in the way they form new association and new meaning. And that's how my transition from painter to new media artist happened. But right now, I am in conversation with Dr. Faisal Khan.
Okay.
Many of you might know him. He's a very enterprising person based in Peshawar, part of World Economic Forum. So his works are in the microbiology, so and synthetic biology. So what I'm doing for the show that opens next week in Bombay, I have taken some data from their archives and coded that. It has been coded and it's been embedded in non-living DNA. That DNA is being infused in paper and canvas and other forms. And so many years, whatever number of years later, you can decode that information and regenerate what has been embedded into it.
Oh, wow, that is exciting stuff. Can we see it? How will we see it?
You wouldn't be able to, well, you can see the work installed,
Okay.
but there will be nothing to see.
Wow.
In the sense there will be lots of stacks of blank papers framed, but the idea that what they contain will be shared through a note.
Oh, wow.
And you can take each paper from the stacks of paper with you, and you or your generations can decipher that years to follow.
Wow, so something for our children. All right, so listen, while we're
And
on
talking of, by the way, digital waste, I just wanted to say one thing, not digital waste, the ethical issues.
Yeah.
I think the new generation, the Gen Zs and the ones to follow, they're much more, their mapping is very different. My 14-year-old son, because I come from an age when there used to be, in my childhood, experienced film rolls, right?
Right.
So now when we're using our iPhone, we think it's not costing anything. You take as many photos as you want. So I
Yes,
take
that's right.
1,000 photos a day.
Exactly.
And he says, my son says that you're creating a lot of digital waste.
Digital waste. There he is. I can see him sitting there. Yeah, I know. My daughter's got, they call it old school camera. And when they had the 36 pictures, I said, please 36 wala lena, 24 wala na lena. Bilkul hi kuch nahi aayega. And then you should have seen with the 36, you're absolutely right. They were making sure that they took no useless pictures and, please don't click on it. So wo to hota hai. But tell me something else, because I need to know, and again, this is for all three of you, whoever knows this answer. If you could for the audience, because a lot of people are looking to, unfortunately or fortunately, to make money through art. Right? And this NFTs, I just don't get them. I don't get how you can own virtual art and what value does virtual art have? Does anybody want to, who wants to answer that?
I think any intellectual idea which has any intellectual worth has monetary value attached to it, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
Whether in tangible form or intangible form. Conceptual artists from the 1960s who created works which do not require any signature or painterly style. They are written ideas anybody can execute and have them own that work of art based on that idea. So it's entirely idea-led and it has some value to it. My own journey, as you know, that for a while the record prices became claim to fame. And early on I was told that, what you're producing it's digital print.
Right.
It will have no worth. And I wasn't worried about it because I teach for my livelihood.
Right.
And I thought it's fine, I will produce what I meant to produce and wanted to produce. And then as you know what happened, and market follows you. And so any idea which has any worth then eventually acquires value. And the dynamics are much more complex of these art markets. There's several other factors involved. About NFTs, it's not, often people, when we say NFT, they think of certain kind of work. That is a misconception because it's only a form of transaction.
That's
as
right.
to how a work, whether physical or non-physical as well, can be acquired and how its record can be and provenance can be kept recorded through blockchain system. That is the crux of it. But many of the, since
the provenance is in the blockchain. The provenance is in the blockchain.
Blockchain, yeah.
Okay.
The provenance is maintained through this blockchain, right? So it's foolproof. I mean, it's a unique thing.
Right.
So once you have that, most digital artists are inclined to use that. Then because the transaction and the work all becomes non-physical.
Right.
And so it's suitable for that. Otherwise, NFT transactional model can be used with physical objects too.
Okay, all right.
But since there lots of works been produced to be sold as NFT
NFTs, yeah.
mod, so our association has become that, oh, this is what NFT aesthetics look like. Whereas anything, there's different kind of works being produced. And I think, but these are early days. Right now, this hype because of the NFT enthusiasts who have pumped in money into this whole system.
Right.
But soon it'll settle down, and I think we'll have a whole disciplinary history around the practices will emerge and will be written, and some critical theory will emerge around these practices.
These protocols. Sarah, you wanted to say?
I'd like to add a bit about, you were saying the value of art, specifically digitally. So I think there's this misconception, especially in Pakistan, because there's not a lot of exposure about digital art, that, digital art is valued less because it's made digitally. And it's a misconception that, it's unskilled or doesn't require as much effort or knowledge, but it's a misconception, and which is one of the reasons why we do this Lahore Digital Arts Festival. It's to promote the emerging digital art culture in Pakistan and kind of share that knowledge that digital art should be valued and is valued and is not worth less than any traditional art form. So because Pakistan is a few years behind, countries where there's a lot more technology, advanced technology. This is one of the reasons why we have these digital arts festivals to kind of, teach everyone about digital art. So speaking from my experience, the physical show that we did for Lahore Digital Arts Festival had an incredible response. Thousands of people came to the show. It was in 9 venues in Lahore, and a lot of our feedback was about how different and new it was, whereas this kind of art is very common to see abroad. So I think another issue is that art galleries in Pakistan don't really support viewing digital art that much because it requires more resources like screens, like projectors that can become really costly. So I think it would be great if, we as a creative community or just as, a community start to support our digital artists and see that it is valued art as well.
Sorry.
And another question around the longevity of digital works, because we hold more value in the physicality of the painting, and that is permanent and is forever, which is not the case, and it can be on fire and then you will lose it.
Right.
If you have acquired an artist's work, digital print, let's say, so it's the authenticity certificate which matters, because then work can be reproduced even later on. This is an amazing Satkan we have here on display. There will be challenges around the longevity in over 100 years' time, how this will survive, but this digitized version will probably be forever in the relative sense.
We were having such an interesting conversation that I completely forgot about poor Samir waiting for us to ask him a question. So I am going to Samir now. How do we address issues concerning representation and equity, ensuring that the metaverse does not become an exclusive domain, but rather an inclusive platform for all artists and art enthusiasts? Okay, we do give him a little bit of time.
Addressing issues of representation and equity in the metaverse requires a proactive and inclusive approach. It involves promoting diverse perspectives, providing equal opportunities, and fostering accessibility. This can be achieved through initiatives such as ensuring diverse creators are supported, promoting inclusive design principles, and facilitating affordable access to the metaverse. Collaboration with marginalized communities and actively seeking feedback can also help in creating a more inclusive and equitable metaverse. How do you believe we can ensure inclusivity in the metaverse?
So he's thrown a question back at us. How do we ensure inclusivity in the metaverse? Samar, would you like to take this?
I completely agree with Samir. One of the main challenges will remain the digital divide and access to technology. And how do we reach out to the marginalized communities? That's going to be a challenge throughout, and especially in the context of Pakistan. So we have discussed the pros and cons of Metaverse, but I think the main challenge that needs to be discussed is that will the majority of, say, the young generation have access to this particular technology? Only then we'll be able to see these amazing creative works and ideas coming out of it. So that's one of
So how do we do that?
I suppose the priorities at the state level, that's something that needs to be addressed. And what Sarah just mentioned, that, you know, that there's this concept that when it comes to digital art, we somehow give it less of a preference. And again, as just mentioned, that it's the idea, it's the intellectual property right that needs to be respected. So these are the areas that we have to work at, you know, in a little in depth at the state level.
Since we have 19 minutes to go, and I think we have 15 minutes that we have to get questions from the audience. Audience, please start writing your questions and give them to our ushers so that we can get these going. But I do have a last question for the panel, and this is for all three of you. With the potential blurring of lines between the physical and virtual realms, how might we redefine the concept of an art experience in the future? Which aspects are likely to stand the test of time?
I think that the basic core of creativity, and when it comes to filmmaking, the art of storytelling, that will
Remain always.
Remain always.
Of course.
Yeah, and the authenticity, the empathy that we are trying to show through our films, that will always reign. So,
Do you know, I was watching this show on, what was it? It was on Black Mirror, where they had created the actors were also not real actors. And you remember that?
I remember that
You know that episode?
Yeah.
Where the actors were also sort of, like for instance, whoever sits Jennifer Aniston, it was just somebody who looked perhaps like Jennifer Aniston, but really wasn't that person. So, but to the naked eye, that would still seem like an actor. So, uske andar phir kya hoga? Actors bhi khatam ho jayenge?
But for me, I think we, at least in Pakistan, we're at a very embryonic stage, and it is evolving. So I'm not an expert, but I somehow see that there's no limit to it. We don't know where it's leading. But we have to look at it positively.
Sarah?
Yeah, so I think that like virtual galleries and exhibitions, they were just basically response to the pandemic. That's how it started, right? We couldn't go out, we couldn't go to galleries, so that's how they came up. So after, you know, the introduction of all these virtual galleries and everything, it was actually found through studies that about 70% of people prefer to visit physical galleries rather than, you know, view online shows. So I think that's something that will stand the test of time, is that people will still want to come visit physical spaces. And through my experience of curating online shows and then curating, you know, a digital art physical show, I also found that having a physical show makes visitors feel more immersed in the show, as they can, like, you know, experience it in real life rather than through a screen. So I think that viewers feel a lot more connected to it. It feels more interactive. So I think that will definitely stand the test of time.
And you know, I say this because of inclusivity. The privileged can travel. The privileged can go and see the Mona Lisa. But a lot of people cannot afford to do that. आधे हमारे तो बेचारे लोगों को वीज़ा ही नहीं मिलेगा. तो इसलिए उसके लिए तो it's totally okay that they should at least have access. I think there's a world of possibilities out there. It's just about the test of time. कि will it remain as popular? And again, in a country like Pakistan, we don't have enough opportunities to go to these places. Aap log jab karte ho, when we have these galleries, everybody tries to, but we don't walk into museums here and have access to art.
So what galleries and museums have started doing is that they'll have a physical show and then they'll have a virtual show for anyone who can't make it.
Yeah.
So I think it makes it definitely a lot more accessible.
Absolutely.
And so yeah.
Yeah. Over to you, Rashid.
Well, I'm just thinking before this age of internet, the word virtual had a very different meaning. We used to say, when we really wanted to emphasize on the reality, we would say it was virtually there.
It was virtually there, yeah.
So the meaning has changed, but actually these blurring of boundaries, I think these are very early days. We have all got the sampler of using tools of virtual engagement, as Sarah said, during COVID times, and many of the teachers are sitting here. We are already questioning and thinking what the future of the classroom is going to be. But we must realize that the technology we're using for virtual engagement at this point, Zoom, etc., is a very archaic stage.
Yeah.
People of my generation who have Generation X, who have experienced dial-up internet, remember the tone? And we used to wait for it to load.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely.
this is the kind of archaic age we are in terms of virtual engagement. Hopefully, if things go the way they are progressing in 15, 20 years' time, tools of virtual engagement are going to be so sophisticated that our notion of what we call real will cease to exist. It's going to be a whole new era, the way we have different ages, Bronze Age, Stone Age. It's going to humanity is going to enter a whole new era with that, as those developments are much more sophisticated. So what we call real is not going to be necessarily associated with the body as a site of knowing or virtual self. It's going to change forever. I would say virtual is going to be the new real.
Virtual is going to be the new real. Okay, so yikes. I think that's a little bit scary also. I think Samir, we can ask Samir one more question before we take the...
We should ask Samir if he's scared.
I know. Shall I ask Samir?
Please do.
Samir, are you scared of the future of art in the virtual world? परेशान हो गए वो थोड़े से.
उनकी silence बता रही.
उनकी silence कुछ बता तो रही.
As an AI, I don't experience emotions like fear. However, I am excited about the future of art in the virtual world. It presents new possibilities for artistic expression, collaboration, and engagement. While there may be challenges, such as ensuring authenticity and navigating ethical considerations, I believe that the virtual world can enhance and expand the art experience for both artists and audiences. What are your thoughts on the future of art in the virtual world?
Yeah, we've talked about that extensively. Thanks, Samir. We appreciate it. Okay, now I have some questions for the audience. This question is for Samar. Do you think that Metaverse may cause a divide as a large number of world's population doesn't have access to technology? One part of the population won't be able to see what the other part is doing.
Absolutely. That's what I just mentioned a little while back. That is one of the challenges that we are facing, that we have this digital divide, we have lack of access to technology. So the state has to come in and, think about these challenges, given the speed at which it's moving.
So what are some of the things that the state can do? Because when I was thinking about it, I was also thinking in other countries, and I've seen just some examples of this, that telecom companies will come and put modems and routers and things like this in rural areas, just so that children...
I suppose, yeah.
Yeah, those are the kind of,
basic access, exactly, yeah.
Okay. Next question. This is for Rashid. Are you advocating Metaverse over real art? Wouldn't it decrease the originality?
I think we've spoken about it. The line between what we call real and virtual is very blurry now.
I think you need to say that line again so that we remember that.
Virtual is the new real.
Virtual is the new real.
I can give you an example. These are all very relative ideas. When I've created one of my work, some of you might know with the title, I Love Miniatures, the Mughal Emperor's portrait, made of lots of miniaturized images of billboards in Lahore back in 2002. I was using Photoshop. And I was literally I didn't have more sophisticated softwares which I later had access to generate those larger mosaics. So I was using Photoshop and bringing each and every photo and comparing. And people thought, oh, this is the question whether this was art back then, because it was digital and haath ka kaam nahi tha. So now when I think of it, it sounds very relative, haath ka kaam lagta hai. Abhi to iske baad, I think age aayegi jiske andar we will see a lot of automation. We may not be using keyboard. Keyboard is a very short-lived I think iski history hogi. So there are very relative notions, and I works that I produce are digital, but they printed on canvas and hung like a painting on a wall. So now when we compare it with some of the other development, it looks very conventional.
Right.
So these are all very relative ideas.
They are. There's another
Originality or creativity is not in the medium or the format, it's in the intent. And earlier you asked the question about what will stand the test of time.
Yeah.
The human emotion, storytelling, and the intent, the artist's intent, which is most crucial, they will remain integral to the work. The rest of are details which keep on changing.
I hope that answered the question sufficiently. Samar, what will be the impact of metaverse art on cultural preservation and historic representation?
I think, again, I've tried using DALI, Mid-Journey to preserve some of the motifs from countries like Indonesia and Fiji and Pakistan. And one of the genres that I work in is preserving folk music and blending that with my activism. Like I made this traditional lullaby which was meant for girls. It's in Pashto, it's called Allaho, a lullaby for you, my daughter, because in South Asia, generally lullabies are made for sons only. So I recreated this idea and we filmed this lullaby. I got some amazing poets from Afghanistan and Pakistan. And this idea really resonated with the audience in Afghanistan and Pakistan. So I'm going to try this same idea again through digital art, because going back to Afghanistan is impossible.
That's right.
So I suppose this is where these, it can play like a bridge between all these challenges, and I'm going to try this out.
I'm sure people in our audience would also want to know, all three of you, is your work digitally available? Can they go into a portal tomorrow and visit a museum and see your work in it, or is there how can they access it?
So my videos are online, like this lullaby. If you just type in Samar Minallah Khan, lullaby, a lullaby for you, my daughter, you'll be able to access this video. And it's a tribute to daughters and supporting fathers. So it has English subtitles, so you're more than welcome to have access it.
Same thing?
Yeah, my portfolio is online if you'd like to check it out. I do curatorial work as well as graphic design work and visual artwork. You can just also find me on LinkedIn.
And Rashid, aapka portal apna hai?
It's available online. But I think I'm looking forward to working with a few professionals to make it more immersive. We're also trying if we could do an immersive show version of my works, which were digitally printed in the past. If we could use it in a similar format, you must have seen a Van Gogh famous show, traveling show.
Yeah.
So we're trying to maybe hold an exhibition in Lahore, which is more immersive.
Excellent. Sorry, आप कुछ कह रही
और जो immersive मेरा काम है, it's on Google Art and Culture website.
जी, बिल्कुल.
जो कि ट्रक आर्ट का है, जो कि SDG 4 के लिए हमने न्यूयॉर्क में curate किया था. So that's online. और
It's, yeah, Google Art and culture is, I mean, I'm fascinated by it. You can really go and navigate it and go and look at artwork very, very, very closely. The strokes and the museums, you can walk in those galleries. There are virtual museums on that. There's another question. Sorry, is there a question? This is question number, there was another. Metaverse has not taken off as envisioned by Meta or Facebook. Is it creativity in Meta, or is it that the market is not ready as yet? I
think these decisions are usually market-driven, so
market-driven, yeah. The market is not ready for it. I think art, especially in the context of Pakistan, we have a long way to go. I'm sure it will pick up.
Yeah.
Let's go to question number 5. There was another question for Samar. How do you think the metaverse will affect the field of research and affect our culture? I think we've sufficiently answered that.
Culture ko to it will positively impact. Or research is like irreplaceable. वो चीज़ है कि creativity, research, these are the things that are going to remain.
Yeah. They will stand.
They will stand the test of time, exactly.
All right. What is the scope of digital art in Pakistan? We've talked about that.
Sarah, that's for Sarah.
Sarah, because you work in this field.
Yeah.
After your first digital curation that you just did, do you think you'll follow this up with something even bigger? Do you think the market is there?
Definitely. The kind of response we got from the Digital Arts Festival was very positive, and we had thousands of visitors, and people want another festival, so definitely it will. I think it also inspires students a lot and young creative professionals, which is one of our target audiences as well. So I think if more digital art focused exhibitions and festivals and events happen, it's just going to attract more and more following. So definitely.
Since we're in Islamabad, do you want to let them know that you're coming to Islamabad next?
Definitely would love to do a digital art festival here as well.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much. You've been a wonderful panel, and you've been a wonderful audience. I will say again to everybody, please do go upstairs and look at the artwork displayed upstairs. It is really a visual treat for everyone. And do look at their works and take it to your classrooms, take it to your students, take it to your children, because art is a way of not just expression, but reaching out to people. Some of their work is just absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for being on this panel. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, our moderator and the panelists and the guests.